And a big game, Pranav, with the white pieces of Kane and Bortynk. And Bortynk plays his standard Alekhein's defense here. Massive game. Bortynk is only half a point behind.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yep, so there's a normal idea. He's fianchettoing his bishop. White generally has a bit of a small advantage here, but Bortynk is an expert in this variation. He plays this, what's considered a bit of a dubious line, very, very often. Just having that little bit of lack of space is Black's problem, but Black doesn't have too many weaknesses here. And is that pawn in the center? Is it strong for White or is it weak? This is another big question. Well, at the moment, you've got to work out how to defend that pawn here. And the knight moving there allows the pin to happen, and the pin comes in.
Yeah, how else was the question? The white queen wanted to step forward, but that would have been a nice hit from the black knight. This is what he's tried, Pranav, but he's advancing a lot of pawns now and maybe overextended. The black rook is coming to the center, and the black knight at the right moment might come back around for this pawn. I quite like black's chances, to be honest, especially now, threatening this pawn. How to save it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Black's got any trouble whatsoever here. And that pawn is certainly looking more like a weakness than a strength now. As you say, David, he's just threatening to take the knight and take the pawn, go pawn up. So the openings work very, very well. And you can see that Pranav is trying to think if there's any way he can save that pawn. You don't want to go a pawn down without any compensation. And this is looking pretty bad for White.
Yeah, it's tricky because Pranav, that was such a breathless end to his previous game. He had no time to recover, straight back in, and he's up against it already in the opening. He's about to be down a pawn. I don't know whether Bortynk is going to try taking that pawn now with one of these two pieces. But either way, Pranav, yeah, it feels like a bit of a hangover from the previous game. He just needs to settle himself now. And, okay, maybe the wrong way to recapture.
Shakes his head immediately after that move. I mean, you're walking into a big pin, and this is a very uncomfortable... well, Pranav was shaking his head there, but actually, it's gone a little bit wrong for Bortynk because you don't want to play this move f6. It's a bit ugly.
Yeah, I don't really understand why he didn't take with the bishop. Like, he could have the same position, but with the bishops off the board, and I think that would be a good exchange for Black, unless there were any immediate tactics against the king. But, okay, he's got his rook into the center. He's still a pawn up, Bortynk, so at least something to suffer for. I can just tell, Simon, you want to kind of maybe move this bishop back and then start shoveling Harry up the board.
How could you tell, David? How could you tell I wanted to shove the h-pawn up the board? I mean, it's a natural idea. This is also a safe way to play. I thought Black might try to exchange the queens there, but this is trying to embarrass Black's bishop on g7, and you still have this idea of pushing the h-pawn up the board. The evaluation bar very, very much now, though, in Black's favour, and it's probably because of the black rooks diving into the position.
Yeah, I think it was a tempo thing. If White got one more move there just to secure the second rank, White would have been doing great, but the black rooks are in, and big question now about whether to take this pawn and say, okay, you can have my rooks, but I'll have your queen. A big, big moment. I'm really shocked that Pranav allowed this. He had a bishop covering this square. He didn't need to rush to take the knight. He could have prevented the black rook jumping like that, but okay, he did rush a bit. Bortynk doing really well on the clock and on the board now.
Yeah, this last move is trying to centralise the queen into d4, which should be a very powerful square. The weak point is right near White's king, where both black rooks are looking. And this is a crafty tactic. Does that work? Trying to eliminate some of the pressure there. Does that work, David?
Well, that is crazy. Pranav reacts, and apparently it did work, the bluff. He wanted to give a check with his queen, pick up the rook if it had been captured, but Black actually could have almost won on the spot if I cancel those arrows by taking this pawn a few moments ago. And White would have had to give up the queen for two rooks, would have been suffering. Pranav dodging it there. A bit lucky.
Yeah, and suddenly White now has managed to centralise all his pieces. The black bishop is bad. Yes, Black is a pawn up, but it's a really irrelevant pawn. No White weaknesses. Still game on for both sides.
Yeah, still game on. I think at the right moment, Black is going to try and strike on this side of the board. First, he's just trying to cement control, making sure that his bishop might peek out later, come round and behind if the rooks disappear. Yeah, the time advantage. I just have a feeling, especially after that scramble we saw between Pranav and Faustino, that the clock is going to play a huge role in these next few rounds. This is a key one, Simon. You mentioned the middle, kind of the meat of the tournament, the middle part. If one of the sides wins here, they might fancy themselves in the last sprint of the last few rounds.
That's right. And this is the second part, as you say, David. After this, there's only 3 games to go. There's a little break. So it's not really a game you want to lose because you've got a bit more time to think about it. A win here is massive, absolutely massive for either side. I'm not sure which side I prefer. Maybe even black now, because the white pawns on the left-hand side are looking all fragile at this moment in time. And the blockade has been broken a little bit in the middle of the board. But I'm more concerned about those pawns, David.
Yeah, those pawns. One rook can come behind, the other rook can come around the side. This does look very, very scary now for Pranav. He's got to hold everything together with minimal time left and a pawn down. He's trying to create counterplay, but that will only help the black bishop to open up on the diagonal if it steps back. I don't really know what he gained there. The black bishop now looks like it's fantastic and it can actually contribute on this diagonal if I can draw arrows a bit later. First the rook comes in. He's just trying to simplify everything, and he's got this pawn in his sights.
Yeah. And the black rook's very active, but it's those pawns, the white pawns on the left-hand side, which are the real problem for Pranav. Can Pranav somehow guard those pawns? Well, also the clock. You've got 1 minute, 12 seconds. You've got half the time. He's trying to defend those pawns, but look at that bishop. That's beautiful, that bishop in the middle.
Yeah, we've seen this a few times. Opposite color bishops means that one of the side's pawns end up being vulnerable, and you can hold the light squares, but you're not holding the dark squares here for Pranav. This is going to be a painful defeat if he can't hold this one, because it feels like he never really got in the game after what looked like a decent opening, especially after his opponent had played that move f6. But now, okay, it's all hands on deck defensive job here. Bishop is pinned, rook is tied down. I think Bortynk just wants to move his king in and win this white rook, which is trapped.
Wow, that's a very nice idea. White's pieces are horrendous, aren't they, here? They just can't coordinate. Black's pieces very nicely placed. The time situation, it looks to me like Bortynk's going to be going into the lead with only 3 rounds to go. And White's decided to try and sacrifice some pawns to activate, but there's some serious pawns he's losing here.
Yeah, it's looking terrible. 1 pawn down in a opposite color bishop position. Maybe you can survive, but 2 pawns is just too much. And okay, what is the trick? If a bishop takes this pawn, I don't really see what the trouble is here.
I guess he's also thinking about bishop e1, just trying to work out which move is better here, David. Bishop e1 might do something. He's moved his king just to get out of the check there, so the bishop had to come in anyway. And now look at that. He's threatening checkmate there. What a crafty idea that was.
That is
really, really. And he's won.
That is so sneaky, so brutal there. Bortynk, bang on fire. And Pranav really didn't get a chance.